Hello, hello, Tender Devil here. I love the Amazing Digital Circus, so I'm gonna just talk about the Amazing Digital Circus, especially since this episode, the last episode, episode 8, was such a turning point. Clearly, like a really big turning point in the series that I think it's a good opportunity to look back at the series as a whole before we get to the final stretch. And so that's basically me ranting about my thoughts on the whole series. A theory I have, I don't like saying my theories because usually I'm wrong, but this one I think I'm right, or if I'm wrong, I won't be that upset if I'm wrong because it's not super crazy. But yeah, that's what this video is going to be about. It's about me just talking about my favorite thing currently, which is the Amazing Digital Circus. So, the first thing you should know about me is that I love Kane. I love him more than any other character in existence. He's not just my favorite character on the show, he's one of my favorite characters ever. If you follow my Instagram, you'll see how much I love him. I post about him constantly, and currently I'm just nonstop posting Kane stuff. So to start, I'll just be talking about my thoughts on episode 8, and then I'll get into the whole series. So I really liked episode 8. I know as a Kane lover, you would think I hated it or I'd be devastated, and I am devastated in a way, but I didn't hate it. I think I would have been more devastated and hated the episode if they hadn't done it well, if it was badly written. And because I think the writers of the Amazing Digital Circus are really good, I didn't doubt that they wouldn't do it well. I didn't expect Kane to die. Spoilers, I guess, but I put it at the beginning of this video, so you should have already known. But yeah, I didn't expect him to die, but I think he's coming back. That's not my theory. I just more wishful thinking. I think he's coming back. I think it'd be weird to not have him come back in some way. So my expectation is that he will come back in some form, even in a minuscule way. He needs to come back. Also, it just makes no sense, which leads on to my theory, my one and only theory that I think is true. I think Bubble is evil and is the quote unquote big bad of the series. Maybe to not that extent, but I believe Bubble is evil and was programmed and isn't actually an AI that Kane made, or an NPC that Kane made. Because, why would Kane keep Bubble around? He doesn't like Bubble. And I think, I have to rewatch the episode, but I think in the flashback with Kinger and Queenie, I don't remember seeing Bubble. I could be wrong. Bubble could be there, but, that doesn't, I've been thinking it since episode 5, when Bubble swore. And Kane's like, why do you swear now? And, it could also just chalk it up to, Kane hating swearing, but he genuinely seems confused. So, maybe... So, that's when it started where I was like, maybe Bubble isn't, maybe Kane isn't fully control of Bubble. And again, Kane gets annoyed by Bubble very easily, so why does he hang out with Bubble? But, so it makes me think, Bubble is some form of AI that was created, or that blue AI we see at the beginning of episode 8, where, it's, or at the very least, maybe, Bubble was created in the same way that Wheatley from Portal 2 was made, for GLaDOS. I guess spoilers for Portal 2, but that's been out for, I think 15 years. But, Wheatley was a dumb AI programmed to dumb down GLaDOS. I wonder if Bubble is the same way, where they made Bubble to dumb down Kane, or at the very least, try to, get rid of Kane. Or maybe Bubble's a virus. I've heard people had the theory that Bubble's a virus, which also would make sense. Because, when Kane is crashing out in his office, I actually think Kane would have calmed down. I really do. I think Kane would have calmed down on his own. Because he was lying to himself. He was like, oh, they like me. Of course they like me. And I think that would have been enough to get, to, go and, regroup himself and, get on another adventure. I think, honestly, he would have calmed down if it wasn't for Bubble's influence. Now, it could be that Bubble is just a part of him that's like saying like what he truly thinks, which also could be true. I'm not denying that, but it's my one theory is that Bubble is evil. Also, like Gooseworks said that their least favorite character was Bubble, so like maybe that's also a hint to like Bubble's like truly like a horrible thing. And so like that's why Bubble is like the worst character. That's why like Bubble is like Gooseworks' least favorite character, because like Goosework knows like how the whole story goes, and so maybe like in the context of the whole story, Bubble is like so evil. So that's my theory. Which actually also, speaking of Gooseworks, that leads to another point I have. So now we're gonna like leave episode 8, because overall that's kind of my thoughts on episode 8. I loved the scene. Okay, I'll I'll say this. I love a good call out scene, and Digital Circus does it so well. One of my favorite moments is in episode 6. They all get guns, where Pommy and Jax have their little like argument. That's done so well, and they do it again so well in this episode. And I love Kane. I don't think Kane is evil. Of course, because I love him, so I'm delusional. But I don't. I think he felt attacked and he doesn't understand people. So he did what he thought was fair. Like, oh, they're torturing me, so I'm going to torture them. That doesn't mean he didn't deserve those comments. And I love Kane. I'm a Kane Glazer. They were speaking truth. They were saying nothing but truth. It wasn't, because easily, I've seen a lot of shows do this. I can't think of an example for some reason, but where they'll like attack a character and they'll say stuff about them that just isn't true. They'll be like, oh, you do this and this, and it's like, that the character doesn't do that, or like that isn't like how actually that went down. So like, because it kind of usually feels like these writers don't understand their characters. I think when the gang was verbally attacking Kane, I don't think a single one of them said anything that I felt was like, no, that's not true about Kane. I think the only thing I was kind of like on is when Pomni's like, and you just don't listen. I felt like that wasn't as hard hitting as it could have been. But again, that's like such a small complaint, because otherwise it's a perfect scene, and I don't even think like that's ruins it for me. I just remember being like, I feel like that's not the worst thing about Kane, but you know, again, perfect scene, perfect. It was such a good episode. But I'm gonna move on to my next point about Gooseworks, and this one's my most controversial point. But I'll say it. But yeah, my next point's gonna be like my thoughts on Gooseworks. So I want to start my point by saying I don't support any harassment of Gooseworks. I actually think Gooseworks is very talented, a very good writer, and as a creator who's very open about their projects, I am been nothing but pleased with how Gooseworks reacts to things. But there was a controversy where Gooseworks said Jax was like the main character along with Pomni. And you think, oh, my controversial thing is that, like, I agree. Because a lot of people hated it. A lot of people were like, no, that's stupid and dumb. And they would, like, send death threats to Gooseworks. And, you know, would say all these horrible things. And, of course, I don't agree with that. That's horrible. And they're not real fans. And, you know, it's weird to make someone write the show how they want to be written. Especially since, in my experience, most fans of things don't know how to write a show. They don't know how to write a story. They don't know how to write anything. So my thought is like, you know, this isn't your story. This isn't your vision. You can definitely have criticisms, but to be like, that's not how the show should be written is ridiculous. With all that being said, I disagree with Gooseworks' point that Jax is the main character alongside Pomni, mainly because... is that how they're writing the show? Is that how they're writing it? Because I never got the sense Jax was the main character. Again, if that's how they're writing it, that's fine. I'm not in charge of that. But I disagree with it because I'm like, is that how you're writing the show? Is that how we want the show to go? Again, I don't support the harassment of Gooseworks at all. Just because I disagree doesn't mean I think Gooseworks should have been harassed at all. I think Gooseworks and their team are very talented writers. Amazing people are working on the Amazing Digital Circus. No pun intended, but it's not so much that I don't like the idea that Jax will be the main character. Because that's what I feel like they were like, oh, I can't believe you're writing Jax like the main character. But, like, we're on episode 8. Is he the main character? Because, like, looking at Pomni is where we're learning all the lore through. Pomni asks questions. Pomni clearly grows throughout the series from, like, that nervous person at the, like, nervous and scared all the time at the beginning of episode 1, to now where Pomni is the first to call out Kane. Pomni always reaches out to people. We're learning about the lore and stuff through Pomni. And learning about the characters through Pomni. Is Jax doing any of that? Jax is, like, what I mean by main character, I don't mean, like, oh, Jax is a main character, like how Zubul, Gangle, Ragathon, and Kinger are. I mean, like, unless I misinterpret it, Gooseworks was saying, like, Jax is the main character alongside Pomni. Which, is that how you're writing the show? Maybe in context, once it's all over, that will make more sense. It's not making sense now. With that being said, also, like, it leads to my only main criticism of the series. And that is, I'm kind of sick of this Jax arc. And it is my only major one. So when the series first started, I didn't like Jax at all. I don't like that archetype of, like, character who thinks he's sassy and funny and is above it all. I didn't like it, and I felt like he wasn't funny, like, at all. Like, if he was funny, there'd be a difference. But then episode 4 came along, and episode 4 is my favorite. And Jax is, like, really great in episode 4. Like, I was like, this is the Jax I want. And I knew that wasn't going to be forever, but I was like, this is the Jax I personally want to see in the series. This is the Jax I think is intriguing. And I left episode 4 liking Jax way more than I thought I was going to. Episode 5 came along, and I'm actually not a fan of episode 5. It's not bad. No, it's not bad, but it's, for some reason, because it's a Ragatha focused episode, I feel like they didn't do a good job with that. But it's not bad. I found it funny. But overall, you know, it's not one of my favorites. With that being said, Jax is great in it. Which is kind of one of the downsides of it, is that it's a Ragatha episode, but they focus more on Jax. Which is kind of sad, but at the same time, Jax is good in it. So, you know. So Jax is good. And again, Jax, they do a good job of balancing silly, goofy Jax versus Jax is hiding, like, his true self. They do a great job in episode 5. Episode 6, I love so much. And they do amazing with Jax. And again, Jax throughout that episode is mostly the goofy, I'm, like, I'm above it all person, but they make him funny. They also sprinkle in the intriguing, like, Jax is hiding his true self moments throughout it. And I think that works really well. So episodes 4 through 5 are truly, like, the best episodes of the series for Jax. Then episode 7 came out, and I like episode 7 a lot. I don't know if I'm liking gloomy Jax. I don't like Jax who's sulking all the time. It's not fun. It's not fun to watch. It's not fun to, like, oh, what happened? Like, I don't know. I really don't even have a clue, like, of what he could be. And I know there's theories, but I really just don't have a clue of what could be Jax. I know he doesn't like being vulnerable. And that's it. I don't even have, like, I know Ribbit? Yeah, I think it's Ribbit. And Kaufmo died. Or got abstracted. I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. Is it because I don't understand. And I'm kind of sick and tired. And they didn't have a chance to, like, have a moment to be like, what's Jax doing? Because it was more, last 2 episodes were more about Kane than Jax and his thing. But I kind of hate Jax keep being like, I don't want to associate with them, especially in episode 8. So episode 7 made more sense because it was right after episode 6 that he was kind of like, I don't really want to hang out with everyone. I don't, I want to keep my distance and be like, see, like I'm gonna distance myself from all of you. That made it sense in episode 7. As annoying as I kind of found it, episode 8 annoyed me. This is not the time to be like, we're not all friends, Jax. Like, we're not all friends. We don't hang out. Like, he makes a little comment like, it was better before Pomni and Zubul showed up. And I think it was supposed to represent like they're not letting him get to them anymore. But again, it was like, it's not the time to like try to be like build that wall up, because I don't need him to sit. You can have a wall up without being without him constantly being like, going off on his own, like in the Kinger scene. Maybe once the series is done, I'll know. It'll make all sense. I'll be like, oh, that makes sense why he did that, and I'm sure it will. But it gets annoying because you're like, that's not the time to be all like, I need to make sure I'm not vulnerable. I don't care. Kane is going crazy. He is a lot more cooperative in this episode, but I wish he just was like a 10% more cooperative, especially after Gangle, who, by the way, I didn't notice Gangle was on arc, but she was, and I love it. She was so great in this episode. But it was like Gangle who was like, we need all to stick together, and that's how we're gonna get through this. And Zubul agreeing, like getting Zubul to calm down. But like again, there could be a balance between like, I can just kind of quietly hang out here and say nothing, which Jax can be good at. Like in episode 7, when he's quiet, I know it sounds mean, but when he's not yapping all the time, that makes more sense for him to just, instead of being like yapping and overcompensating, him to just be completely reserved, completely like, I'm not talking to anyone. That makes more sense. I'm kind of, sick of gloomy Jax. Glitch just posted a picture of, I'll try to remember to put it up, of like what do we do now? And it's all of them in the decrepit circus. And it's all of them clustered under a light, but like Jax is like off. And that made me so mad. This is not the time to be like, I'm gonna distance yourself. I'm gonna distance myself from them still. Like, who cares? Just try to figure out what's going on. Like, I get it. He doesn't want to. You don't have to be super vulnerable, and it kind of annoys me. And maybe it'll make more sense once. But I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. It's just, there's more interesting characters. Like Kinger has more interesting stuff going on. Of course, Kane, but now Kane's dead, so who knows what's gonna happen there. But there was more interesting character. Like Kinger is great. Who doesn't hate Kinger? I know some people hate Kinger now because he accidentally killed Kane. And there's theories that Bubble did it. Like, somehow Bubble did it. I don't know about that part. But I actually, I believe it was an accident. Because Kinger, even in that moment, was like, oh no. When he did it. So he did not mean to kill Kane, of course. It seemed like. Because it seems like weird to him to be like, oh no. And then like, because they didn't see it. That would just be for us, the audience. But yeah, Kinger's more interesting. Like, I would rather know about Kinger. And they focus on Kinger a good amount. But I feel, it's too much focus on Jax being like, oh, no, I don't want to be vulnerable. But it's also like, there's a moment to be vulnerable. No, you don't have to be vulnerable in order to be a team player. Like, and it took up too much of my time. And I think the episode 8 is already pretty short. So it's like, you're wasting time on that. So I can see from that angle where it's like, it's kind of annoying that they keep focusing on Jax so much, especially if you don't like Jax at all still. But again, no need for harassment. And overall, the show's still really good. It's my one complaint, and it's only a complaint that really surfaced in this episode. A little bit in episode 7, but really in this episode I noticed it. But that's it. Overall, I love the Amazing Digital Circus. I'm so excited in June when the next episode comes out. I know I should know this. I don't remember how many episodes they said there were going to be. I think maybe the next one's gonna be the last one. I thought this was the last one, but then I was like, no, that can't be, when the episode came out. So yeah, those are all my thoughts. Um, I would be happy to do another one of these. The reason I'm not is actually because, as you've been watching throughout my speed paints, I ran out of fan art to do. So, to like use as speed paints. So, like, I would like to be on theme a little when I talk about stuff. So, like next time I'm going to have like more fan art and stuff to like talk over, because I don't like to just like show random art when I'm doing these rants. That's just me though. I like to have a theme. That's actually why I'm not going to talk about it more. But yeah, if you really, if you liked my thoughts, please let me, if you agree with any of my points, if you disagree with any of my points, please be nice. These are my opinions. And, overall, I am a really big fan of this show. I love it so much. It's changed my life. But yeah, that's all I have to say to now. Please like and subscribe, and hope you have a good day.